May not have liked you the first time, but on second watch, you're an improvement.
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for a MonsterVerse film that I'm finally doing a review for, and it's the last one I have left to do, and that completes the MonsterVerse. And it's for the next one, the second installment of the MonsterVerse series, and it's the first to feature Khan. And yeah, and chronologically, it's the first installment of the actual MonsterVerse. And that's going to be 2017's Khan Skull Island, directed by Vogue Roberts. So yeah, I think it is. But anyway, what's the plot of Khan Skull Island? Well, a washed-up monster chaser convinces the U.S. government to fund a trip to an unexplored island in the South Pacific. Under the guise of research, a team travels to the place called Skull Island. Upon arrival, the group discover that their mission is complicated by the wildlife and inhabits the island. The beautiful devices and deadly creatures create this stunning experience that definitely will keep the viewer's attention. So yeah, the film was pretty much, when it came to production, it got announced in July 2014 at the San Diego Comic-Con, and Vogue Roberts was announced as a director. The project began at Universal Pictures as an origin story, but then it moved to Warner Bros. Because they were developing a shared cinematic universe with Godzilla and Kong. Filming the movie began in October 2015 in Hawaii, and various locations throughout Vietnam, and then the production ended in March 2016. Then after the film was completed and marketed, Khan Skull Island would be theatrically released into theaters to the public on March 10th, 2017. And it got generally positive reviews from critics. They praised the visual effects, the action sequences, and the performances, particularly the performances of Samuel Jackson and John C. Reilly. And it was made a good profit at the box office, and it grossed over $568 million worldwide. And it's so far the highest grossing installment in the MonsterVerse and the King Kong franchise to this date, for now. Yeah, So, anyways, guys, as for my reaction to this movie, so the last time before a rewatch, I had saw this in the theaters when it released, and I hadn't rewatched it since then because back then I was just not really a fan of it. It's like on first watch, it was kind of slow and a bit boring back then. And at the time, it didn't really improve my thoughts on the MonsterVerse because you all know I'm not a fan of Godzilla 2014 because that was not even a Godzilla movie at all. It was just a horrible way to kickstart the MonsterVerse. So yeah, these two movies at the time were why I skipped seeing King of the Monsters in theaters. But now, since I'm reviewing the MonsterVerse, I finally rewatched it now and just revisited it to see how it holds up. And honestly, on second watch, this film is actually much better the second time around. It's better on rewatch, honestly. So I don't really hate it anymore, and I actually liked it on rewatch. I feel like this should have been the start to the MonsterVerse, because technically this is set before any of the Godzilla movies. And yeah, chronologically this is kind of the first installment of the MonsterVerse, so I feel like this should have been the kickstart to the MonsterVerse here. And this one, like, the human characters are my least favorite thing of the MonsterVerse. But this is the one of the series that has the best development of the human characters of all the MonsterVerse movies. Does this movie still have problems? Yes. But it's definitely a much better movie now after rewatch. So we all know after the big disappointment that was Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island turned out to be a tremendous surprise for many. Not only is it a much better, much more entertaining monster movie, but it's more well directed, more well written, and more well acted. And it's got ideas from start to finish. The action set pieces are spectacular. The CGI is fantastic. There's a story that's interesting throughout. And yeah. And the greatest achievement of the film of the presence is definitely of Khan himself. Like while most of the film's playing, like the biggest, like with most of the Godzilla 2014, in like the biggest issue with like that one, like where Khan appears more in this, Godzilla 2014, Godzilla never appeared till the finale. Skull Island retcons that whole mistake and makes Khan an actual character in the film, as much as the humans are. And even appearing on screen at regular times, and even playing a genuine role to the story. The story is the thing that also surprised me most. Like, where Godzilla was just a boring story, just slow, empty, and just boring. Kong Skull Island is a fast-paced and jam-packed action movie that definitely does slowly get better as it moves along, as I find on Rewatch. You take a bit of the original Kong, you mix it with 1 part Private Ryan, Deer Hunter, a bit of Monty Python, lots of Jurassic Park, Space Odyssey, mix it well, and result is like this. It's pleasing fare, like one can really sink their teeth into and enjoy. Like, there is lots of screen time devoted to Khan in this movie and the monsters. And some pretty cool death scenes. Like, yeah, some pretty gory ones for a PG-13 rating. And when it comes to, like, and surprisingly, you want to know the craziest part here? The human characters were actually good in this film. Most of them. Most of the human characters were actually good in this movie. The acting that actually stands out the most are Samuel L. Jackson, John Goodman, and John C. Reilly that also stand out the most. And yeah, I feel like they even do their characters were much better written than Tom Hiddleston, to be honest. I feel like if the movie was about, I feel like the movie should have been about, the human lead should have been John C. Reilly a little more. I kind of wish that a little more, because I feel like his character was more interesting than Tom Hiddleston's, to be fair. And some of the film's characters are also layered and have interesting backstories. Like, Samuel Jackson's character is a stubborn warmonger colonel from the Vietnam War he loved fighting in. He's interesting to watch here. And he's even, at times, even mimicking the role of film director like Carl Denham from the original King Kong. And he had a far more darker, more serious edge to the story of the invasion of Skull Island. Jackson's character is just fascinating to follow from start to finish. There's also some other characters that bring some impressive depth to the story. Like, there's definitely, like, you didn't expect that from, like, the not-so-interesting characters of Godzilla 2014. Here you get more interesting characters to watch here. Characters that you can actually connect with. Ones that actually don't just look like they're bored the whole film. And actually have a reason you want to care about them. Most of the large cast works very well here. Another positive, like, from the film is definitely the action. Like, it's a very exciting monster movie that's full of action throughout. Like, the opening and closing action sequences really stand out. And that's both because, like, the amazing visuals from, like, the Vietnam War films like Apocalypse Now or Platoon or Full Metal Jacket. And the stunning CGI on Khan that allows Khan to tower over the screen in comparison to the humans. Like, he's much larger than the original King Kong himself. Even as a formidable and genuinely terrifying enemy on this very playing field. Like, so, how does our movie start? Well, yeah, this movie takes place long before the Godzilla 2014. And, like, we start off in 1994, we see 2 World War II pilots. There's a pilot named Hank Marlowe and a Japanese pilot named Gunpei Ikari. They parachute onto this island in the South Pacific because they had a dogfight, and then they engage in combat, and then the fight gets interrupted by a giant ape. And you obviously know it's Khan. Then we flash forward to 1973, and we see the head of the U.S. government organization monitor named Bill Randa. He's planning to search for primitive creatures on the discovered Skull Island. So he recruits an army commanded by Colonel Preston, Packard, a tracker like a British Special Air Service named Captain James Conrad, a war photographer named Mason Weaver. So they all arrive at Skull Island, and Packard's men then start dropping explosives, and Rhonda semiologist Houston Brooks, they map out the island, they prove Brooks' Hall Earth theory, then the unit gets attacked by the giant ape. We all know the giant ape is Khan, guys. And then survivors are scattered across the island, and then two groups form between the survivors. One has Conrad, Weaver, the official Neves, the researchers, one of the soldiers, another has Randa, and the rest. Like, Packard searches for the transport helicopter piloted by Major Jack Chapman. They want to use the weapons on board to kill the ape. And from there, like, the film actually gets more... Whereas, on second rewatch, I find this film gets more interesting as it progresses. Unlike Godzilla 2014, that gets more and more boring as it progresses. What I appreciate most about Kong Skull Island on Revisit is that it's not another remake. It's not just another remake of 1933. For as great like a Kong character is, most of his Hollywood films, like, sometimes, like, even the 1933 sequels are just, like, telling the same story from 1933. This one, though, it's a different story. It gives the character the opportunity to escape the distinction and do something new. And the difference between the two is simple but profound. Like, Edwards, like, Gareth Edwards, when he directed Godzilla 2014, he was more spectacle in the presence of Godzilla. But it wasn't so set up building human characters to connect with. Like, you had Bryan Cranston, but then he gets axed off in the beginning of the film, and so you're left with a boring Aaron Taylor Johnson's character that you don't give a rat's ass about. Here, director Jordan Vogt Roberts is all about writing good characters, and gives some time to people who shouldn't just be secondary human characters. Yeah. Right there, like, everyone has charisma. The characters who need to have chemistry... such as most of the human characters, and whenever they interact with Khan, they give it enough juice in that whole area. More of that is that, like, Khan himself gets done right by the writers and the filmmakers. Like, also, unlike a Godzilla 2014, we have a character who's actually a character, someone who functions in the story. It shows deeper walls of emotion. Yeah, it finds, like, through nonverbal communications how to connect. Or slightly not quite the opposite, like, especially with these Vietnam War hosts, like, and that character, of course, himself is Khan. Whereas Godzilla is just never in Godzilla 2014. You don't ever see him at all. Because apparently Gareth Edwards clearly doesn't know how to direct a Godzilla movie. This guy actually clearly knows how to direct a Khan movie. The director of Skull Island actually knows how to do Khan. Make him a character, not just the human characters. Like, both Khan and the human characters are characters you connect with. Like, Khan has goals and real motivations. They're steeped in monster movie lore, and it's a sharp, exciting movie lore. And things are explained, like, by John C. Reilly's character. And they're, like, where John C. really plays as 20-years gone survivor who was left during World War II. Is also innocent, yet still, like, in the U.S. history. And, like, it needs a lot, and yet a lot is left to the imagination. And the restraint this film shows, I definitely applaud it. Like, the action in this movie, it's first rate, it's not over the top, the CGI is good, the laughs are plenty enough to keep you entertained, it's stylish, it's not overly stylish, it's adventurous, not too daring, it's CGI fight-filled and not overblown CGI, and the quick-cut shaky cam is prevalent in other films to kept to a minimum role here, and the monsters are easily sizable enough for the average audience member to understand, and doesn't get overwhelmed by all of it. And starting with, like, the casting, John Goodman as the head of the group that's heading to the island, and also have Samuel Jackson, the head of the military team that goes in. Like, the audience recognizes and understands their characters, based on history of characters that the two have actually played. But the cast member that easily does the best job of this movie, like I've already mentioned, it's easily John C. Reilly, as the biggest surprise of the cast, who's this Air Force pilot who's been stranded on the island for decades. Like, now, usually John C. Reilly, yeah, he's been in a lot of serious drama roles, but some of the times a lot of people know him more for his more like comedies he did in the 2000s, like this, like partnering up with Will Ferrell, like Talladega Nights, Step Brothers. I enjoyed both those films. Yeah, and also he did that film. He did also do some serious films like Chicago. He did do that shitty 2005 horror film Dark Water with Jennifer Connelly. That boring-ass horror movie, and then again, that's another Japanese-American remake, so that's not a surprise. And, his character in this movie, this is easily probably his best live-action role, and I think he was easily the best of the human characters of all the MonsterVerse. And, like, it always leaves me wondering, I don't know why we could have had more of this guy in these movies. I don't know why we could have seen more of his character in the MonsterVerse a lot more. Yeah, and like, yeah, same, because like then again, obviously John C. really probably wouldn't have been available if they had brought his character back, because, and I did wish he had focused during like after Skull Island, he tried to focus more on movie and roles like this, and not going and doing a shitty Wreck-It Ralph sequel called Ralph Breaks the Internet the year after this in 2018, and that wasn't the only bad project he did in 2018, guys. There was another attempted reuniting with Will Ferrell for another comedy called Holmes and Watson, and that movie fucking sucked. It was not funny at all. And it's just easily one of the worst comedies ever made, and it's probably the worst film they've collaborated on. Yeah, that attempt to reunite him with Ferrell after Step Brothers. Yeah, that parody of Sherlock Holmes. Fuck that movie. Then you also have some other actors in this film. You got Tom Hiddleston, and also Hawkins are also in this film, and some of the others are also cable actors that know that they won't be the reason people would definitely want to watch this film. Like, usually it's like we want to see like Khan again, and yeah, when we watch something like a Godzilla or Khan movie, most of the time we're interested in seeing Khan or Godzilla. Most of the time, like, it's not just enraged monkeys like the Islanders that these people have to worry about. There's also natives, giant spiders, horrible lizard things that live underground to contend with. And they realize that Khan's the least of their problems. Yeah. So definitely yeah. And then he also, so after our group like splits up, we get to Conrad's group and they counter the natives and an older Marlowe, John C. Reilly's character. Marlowe then tells the group that the giant ape is named Khan, and he protects the island from predators. This race, like, of certain reptilian creatures that are dubbed the Skull Crawlers, they got awakened from the bombing, and they're responsible for killing Khan's entire species, so now he's the last of his kind. And the AI would believe that when Khan dies, this giant Skull Crawler will awaken and ravage the island. Then Marlowe reveals that he and Ikari, they became friends during the time on the island, and Ikari got killed by a Skull Crawler some time ago. Then as this is happening, Chapman is ambushed and devoured by a Skull Crawler, and Conrad's group helps Marlowe finish a boat made from parts of Marlowe's and Ikari's down plains, so they leave the island by riding down the river, but then Nice gets torn apart by carnivorous birds, and they secure communication with Packard's group. Then the group reunites with Packard's gang. Then Packard insists on searching for Chapman, even though Chapman's pretty much dead. Then Marlowe leads them through this mass grave of dinosaurs and Khan's family members. The Skull Crawler that killed Chapman attacks them. Then Randa is killed, and others before Weaver triggers his flammable gas explosion and then kills the Skull Crawler. Then after Packard finds out Chapman's dead, Packard decides that he is going to kill Khan and is going to avenge his fallen men, even though it's clearly a suicidally very bad idea. Marlowe and Brooks, though, they try to explain that killing Khan is going to lead to Skull Crawlers running rampant, but Packard has pretty much gone insane at this point, and he refuses to listen to them. So the group parts ways, and Packard's group goes to retrieve the weapons for Chapman's chopper, and they set up a trap for Khan in a nearby lake. Then the non-military personnel head back to the boat, and Conrad and Weaver then meet Khan up close, and they see his true peaceful nature. So instead of trying to kill him, they immediately try to resolve him. I mean, no, they decided to save him instead of actually trying to kill him once they see how peaceful he really is. This movie's editing is also really great. So you get great shots and clips of the movie that blow you away. Khan looks very good and horrific, as do all the other creatures in this movie. And the soundtrack even adds to the movie. Like, there's many songs that are perfect for the film, and this really great score. It's like really great telling of Khan and a better way to have people be more interested in the MonsterVerse. Like after Godzilla 2014 went off to a bad start, this one actually gets them on a more proper start. It's a more proper attempt to start off the MonsterVerse. The Khan created here, he's different from Peter Jackson's version that we had before this. Like this Khan does not use his hands to walk. Like this one, like what makes Khan this less more of an animal but more of a warrior is that he has better physique, he has a broader chest, he does not walk on his arms, and he actually walks like a bit like a human, and he's much larger than any other Khan. He's even smart too. He knows who to kill, who not to kill. There's even a brief scene or two helicopters try to shoot him from two sides getting closer, and Khan just jumps upward and both the helicopters shoot each other and collide right here. Like, this con is as tall as a freaking building. The storytelling and movie action are thrilling, great to watch. There's good evergreen songs that states like movie action and CGI effects and very enjoyably. Like the beginning of the movie, you clearly know who are the bad guys of the story, and they all earn to get killed by Khan. Like, the CGI is very outstanding. The action's like well done. Like when you see Khan beat down giant monsters, it's a lot of fun to watch. The Monster Island was very well done. It was very great seeing this large island full of creatures right here, full of so many creatures in this version. And seeing King Kong beat up giant monsters is easily the best part of the movie. Kong like never looks more fierce here. He's definitely the most imitating larger than life presence in the movie of his MonsterVerse portrayals. So yeah, after they see Kong, so after our leads see Kong's peaceful nature, we get to the finale. Finale here. And this is definitely an improved finale here compared to the finale of Godzilla 2014. We get back to Packard's group, and they lure Khan with his remaining semistic charges, and they incapacitate him with napalm. Then Khan and Reaver and Marl arrive, and after a standoff, they persuade the other soldiers to spare Khan. The other soldiers listen, but Packard's the only one who doesn't. He's not going to yield. The others are retreating, and then the giant skull crawler emerges from the lake. Khanman gets up and crushes Packard to death. So he pretty much ends up being an asshole victim because he's pretty much willing to endanger a whole island for his own ego. And then the skull crawler fights and overpowers Khan, but then of course the giant ape gets help from the humans and he's victorious. Then the survivors reach the rendezvous point, they leave the island, and Khan just epically watches them leave. And then you get to the aftermath, where John C. Reilly's character Marlowe reunites with his wife and meets his son for the first time. So it's nice to see Marlowe actually get back home and finally get to see his son. Here, it was very nice that he finally got to go home after a long time on that island. But the movie is not over yet, because you do get a post-credit scene where Monarch detains and recruits Conrad and Weaver. They get informed by a biologist named Sandlin Brooks that Khan is not the only Monster King at all. Because, you also do get to see footage of paintings that depict Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. And that final image you see shows Godzilla and Ghidorah battle. So yeah, guys, you know what this movie sets up? Godzilla King of the Monsters, because that comes next after this. It's pretty much as a tease for Godzilla King of the Monsters, guys. Now, Kong Skull Island is better on Rewatch. Does it still have bad qualities that still have not improved? Yeah, sometimes the pacing is a bit of a problem with the MonsterVerse movies. The pacing at times kind of makes certain scenes drag on too long, and when it comes to Tom Hiddleston, I don't mind his performance, but I just didn't really connect to his character that much as the lead. Because like I said, I would have rather John C. Reilly had been the main character instead. John C. Reilly, in this movie, you kind of connected to way more. He felt he had better development than Tom Hiddleston, and I wish for the human characters, the movie was about him. He was kind of more interesting to watch than Hiddleston's character. When you have the character Mason Weaver, I feel like she just wasn't really needed because she just doesn't contribute much to the plots. I mean, now, I'm more mixed, and when it comes to her actress, I'm mixed on her actress, Brie Larson. I'm not a fan of her Captain Marvel portrayal. I don't like Captain Marvel. I think that's the worst Infinity Saga movie. Not a fan of her portrayal of Carol Danvers. And although, when it comes to her non-Carol Danvers roles, I did enjoy that 2015 film Room. I like that movie. I like 21 Jump Street. She's in that. And honestly, there's now much worse actresses. I now have much less respect for much worse actresses I've already heard of. I think honestly now in today's world, I'll now take Larson over Rachel Zegler or Bitchy Cowling or Halle Idiot or Crazy Bailey, as I call Halle Bailey, or Halle Idiot. And when we used to have the Saturday chats on Lucas Prime's channel, one member actually did meet Larson, and actually during that whole meet and greet, mentioned Lucas's channel, and she then said she wished Lucas luck on his channel. So yeah, so that's why I'm more mixed on her now. And I'll take her over the ones I've already mentioned. Nowadays, I mean, not like, just more mixed on now. And honestly, and also you have John Goodman in the film. John Goodman, I wish got a bit more to do. And also the fact, this film has kind of took me a rewatch to like much better, because I didn't like it the first time. I think when I just first watched it, I think the problem was I was just a little late to see it when I saw it in theaters, so I kind of missed some important bits in the beginning. Maybe that was my problem, why I didn't like it at first, and why it took me a while to warm up to the film. And plus, I still didn't like Godzilla 2014. So yeah. Maybe it wasn't as good the first time, but finally rewatching it, it's a much better film to me. And to me, now it is the first worth buying of the MonsterVerse. No, I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying it's a worth buying just to copy other users who like the film. I'm legitimately being honest when I say that. Sometimes, you all know, sometimes my opinions change on films, whether I like films or films I hate. It happens quite a lot of times when I watch a film. Sometimes a person will like a film they see at first, but sometimes they'll rewatch the film and they'll start to notice its flaws and not like it as much. Or it could be the other way around. They don't like it much the first time, but then they see it the second time and they like it way better. Or they may just find that first watch to be okay. That case where a film I was not the biggest fan of at first, but I liked much better on rewatch, happened with Mario last year. I just thought it was alright at first, mainly because I just thought Mario could have been less short. I think that just being a little too short was kind of my problem with the film. But then I watched it on second watch and it was much better. Way better on second watch. Now, in the end, opinions are going to vary, but after a second rewatch, I think Skull Island is likely going to become a worth buying for Khan fans who want a new story to bring back Khan, not just remaking 1933 again, and they want a better second entry after they did not like Godzilla 2014. Anyways, guys, that's it for my updated review of Skull Island. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Han Skull Island, here's how I am now going to rank this movie. So overall, if you were unsatisfied with 2014 and want a better second entry, you're going to get that here, even if it may require a few rewatches to enjoy better, and will eventually become a worth buying for you like it did for me. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Skull Island, I am now going to give Han Skull Island an updated score from originally 5 out of 10, and I'm now going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. There we go, guys. That's it for my redone scoring review of Han Skull Island. Now I want to know the comments below. If you still don't like this movie, or if you now like this movie much better, if you've always liked this movie when you saw it, tell me what your score has always been down in the comments below. Sorry this one took a while to get to, guys, but it's finally reviewed now. I finally completed the whole MonsterVerse. So, now, this summer, I can finally now do my X-Men reviews. Yeah, I mean, as much as I still don't really want to see Deadpool and Wolverine, I guess it has kind of, inspired me to, that kind of reason has kind of inspired me to review all the X-Men films. Mainly just for that reason. No, I'm not going to give a review for Deadpool Wolverine. I'm not going to go see that film. I don't want to see that film. But now I'm finally planning to review the X-Men films. And honestly, as much as I said I don't want to review the prequels, I think I should include the prequels, but I'm just not going to mention Mystique. Alright? Okay, but I'm not going to overtalk a Mystique for the prequel reviews. Okay? Just going to try to leave that stuff out. But yeah, tell me in the comments below what your score for this movie is. And until then, guys, that will be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.